Well, I think everybody's out enjoying the sunshine today. So we've got a couple more coming in now. Obviously, I don't know why people aren't waiting here for hours before I start, obviously, because this is the highlight of your week. So, right. So I've just come off of another phone call with a mini horror story. So this is a golf club. Out on the greens, one of the greenkeepers who's supposed to be mowing the edges at different lengths said he couldn't see the edges of the course. So the course manager went out with him and said, look, is it that you can't see it or that they can't be seen? Because obviously in the sunshine and everything, it's sometimes a bit difficult to see the edges of the fairway, etc. So they went out and it did look fairly clean to see what it was, but they also use a blue spray to put spots on the edge so you can see where it is if it gets tricky, because you're moving faster on the mower than walking. And and the course manager asked that of the greenkeeper, have you got the blue spray? Whereupon the greenkeeper got on the mower and tried to run the course manager down and actually hit the course manager. I mean, he'd slowed down a little bit, so the course manager wasn't hurt and wasn't actually run over, but the course manager was over the front of the mower. And the guy then said, right, that's me, I'm done. And left the mower there and stormed off to the greenkeeper's shed. And then the course manager sort of picked himself up, dusted himself off and went, what just happened? Went to the greenkeeper's shed and found the guy emptying his locker and saying, yeah, I'm off, I'm out of here. It's like, where did this come from? Now, this guy's got long service and he's got a disability. So he's got protected characteristic, quite a major disability. And it's like out of nowhere, he's decided to go. And it's just like, wow. So they've got chocolates, because if we've not had this before and we've not had anybody being run over before, you get something new from us. So he's getting chocolates. But it was interesting to go through what you need to do now. So what happened, the greenkeeper has done what is called a heat of the moment resignation. Okay. And we only really worry about that if somebody's got over 2 years service, because if it's under 2 years, they have no comeback if they want to take it back. They don't really have comeback after 2 years, because a resignation is unilateral. You can't refuse to accept the resignation. I mean, you can say you're refusing, but it makes no difference legally. It's still unilateral. If somebody wants to leave, they're leaving, okay? But if they want to be reinstated, it has to be on both sides, and there is no default legal position that you as the employer have to accept it. So if somebody has resigned and then says a couple of days later, or as we've had actually a couple of weeks later, actually I've changed my mind, I want to stay, you can say, yeah, I'm really sorry, we've changed our personnel planning, we're not going to do that. And you would be absolutely fine, and they cannot sue you for that at all in any way, no matter how long they've been working for you and they've resigned. But when it's a heat of the moment resignation like this, what we do is we give them the chance to calm down and to talk about it. So we're going to offer him a grievance hearing next week. And then, and the first step is we say, look, obviously you're upset about something. We'd like to give you the chance to talk about it. Would you be interested? We can do a meeting next week. And we will either get, yes, I'd like to talk about it, or we will get, no, get lost, I've resigned. And so that will clarify things really by tomorrow afternoon, which way we're going. And that's the heat of the moment thing. So if he then says, look, I don't know what happened, I'm really sorry, I would like to come back to work, that's fine. So he's not resigned. However, the other string to that bow is that this is now a gross misconduct disciplinary process, because you don't get to run over anybody, let alone your boss. Well, not it makes any difference. It really doesn't make any difference whether it's your boss or anybody else. You don't run over anybody and expect to stay in your job. So it's what they're doing now is also getting all the witness statements for everybody who's been involved in case he decides to withdraw his resignation, so that we can then go into a gross misconduct disciplinary process, which might end up in a settlement agreement. But the point is, either way, this person won't be staying, because there is no way he can stay, because it's not even that we knew what had happened, that it was a logical progression in people getting irritated and more agitated, and then there's an explosion. No, out of nowhere there was an explosion, which means that we obviously can't anticipate, or we can't prevent that situation happening again, because there was no situation as far as the course manager was concerned. So obviously we'll go through the details of the statements and see what there was. But it's just, if somebody does something like that, there's usually the two things. One is it's probably a heat of the moment resignation if it's after a big blow up like that. And secondly, we need to get witness statements immediately in case the person decides to come back, so that we can then take the right disciplinary procedure. So yeah, so there you go. So exciting. I did not think that was going to happen today. So when somebody says it's gross misconduct and they've resigned, you're like, oh, okay, fine. And then you turn out it's an attempt on his life. So I did tell him to go and have a stiff drink, because he's like, I know you feel okay, but not everybody gets, has an assassination attempt every day. So, be kind to yourself. So there you go. I'm going to say, I realise that I'm HR sense of humour. I'm just like, wow, that's amazing. And obviously I want him to look after himself. I'm like, that's a great story. And that's like, yeah, probably need to be more concerned about stuff. But, HR, we have a black sense of humour. So that's good. I have got something else to talk about, but I was just wondering if anybody had any questions first. Everybody's perfectly happy. Excellent.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, of course, Annie. Yeah.
Can I understand a little bit more about your bank holidays and how we pay bank holidays? I'll give you an example. We are open on the Saturday, so I'd asked the girls to work on the Friday, which is the bank holiday, so we could have the Saturday off.
Okay.
And then we would be closed through till the Tuesday. Right. But one of the girls who's not working that particular Saturday has now asked for the Friday off. Does that become a holiday if I've asked everyone to work, or do I still pay her do I have to pay her for the bank holiday? I'm not quite sure how that is.
If they're using part of their holiday entitlement to be off, then you pay them as if it was a day's holiday. So in the UK, there's no legal right to having the bank holidays off, and certainly not paid. Okay.
So she wasn't due to work on the Saturday.
Yeah.
It wasn't her rota Saturday, so she wouldn't really have benefited from a leave day.
Yeah.
But she wants the Friday off.
And if she uses part of her holiday entitlement for that, she gets paid. If she just has it off, then she would not get paid. Yeah.
Okay, so it does become part of the holiday entitlement.
Yes, and you take it off of her annual entitlement. Yeah.
Great, thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So the other thing, that Nadia's busy sorting out another disciplinary, which I won't talk about yet, but we'll have more details on next week, is the neonatal care leave and pay policy. It's not policy, it's a law. So neonatal care leave and pay law is coming into effect on the 6th of April. So that's Saturday. Okay. So this is a day one, right? So everybody from mother or father can apply for it from day one of employment. Okay. It applies if a baby is admitted to neonatal care within 28 days of the birth for at least 7 continuous days. Okay. And how long is it? It's 12 weeks. So they have the right to 12 weeks off within 68 weeks of the birth. Now, there's going to be, I'm not sure how that 28 days and the 12 weeks translates to 68 weeks. We'll need to get a little bit more detail on that one. But basically, if they've got a newborn and it's admitted to the NICU and ICU, which is the neonatal intensive care unit, then they will have up to 12 weeks off, and it's paid at the statutory rate, which is £187.18 a week. So the pay is from 26 weeks. The right to have the time off is from day one. Yeah. And so we're going to be updating your policies and sorting those out. But that is coming into effect from Saturday. So if you have anybody who has got babies being born, just be aware that that is a right. And we will send you, what we'll probably do is send you the policy for Monday. I'm turning into one of those weeks. We were intending to do it Friday, but certainly Monday you've got that to send out, and then we will be integrating into the handbook. So when we do the full update this year, it will be in your handbooks as well, in the family-friendly policies. Okay. Melanie, have you got a question? You look like you've got a question. I'm just saying.
Can you say it again? I've got members of staff.
Okay.
Maternity leave and greenkeepers with young children. So can you just say it again?
Right. So it's for babies shortly after the birth if they are admitted to intensive care within 28 days of the birth. Okay. So after that, it doesn't apply. Everybody has the right to have the leave, to have the time off, and it can be up to 12 weeks off from day one of employment. And those who've been with you for 26 weeks have the right to be paid for that time off. And that's then the statutory amount, same as maternity pay and paternity pay, which is £187 a week. Yeah. So we'll have the policy. I mean, it's relatively straightforward, the policy, and a form for people to fill out. But I'm going to say, if you did have that situation, I wouldn't be worrying about the form, because it's traumatic enough, the giving birth and hoping the child's well and then finding out the child isn't well and you're in intensive care. Filling out forms is the last thing on your mind. So just a bit of flexibility on that, really. Okay. Good. I'm just trying to think what else we've had recently. We did the union thing last week, so that's going to be fine. Yeah, we still don't have any definitive details. The big thing for us is really that 2 years with the Employment Rights Bill, whether the 2 years is definitely going down to 0 and what the loophole is around that, whether it's going to be 6 months, 9 months, where you don't have to follow a procedure or certainly a shorter procedure. That's the big thing that we want to know, but there's still, the jury is still out on that. So yeah, it's working around those things. What else do we have? Well, I'm going to say there's loads of stuff going on. We had a question about paying somebody who resigns with immediate effect, whether you should still pay them their notice just as a nice gesture. And my feeling on that is that you shouldn't. Because if they've resigned with immediate effect, that is a definite decision on their part to go now. And it states very clearly in the contract that, you don't work your notice, you don't get paid. And sometimes and legally, there's no requirement to do that either. If they say, I resign with immediate effect, that's it, you don't owe them any more money. But it's also sometimes employers want to do that because they're like, oh, well, then they won't start a claim. There is no guarantee if you pay them notice when you don't have to, that they still won't come back to you and say stuff at tribunal. So it's just better to put the money to one side in a contingency. And then if you need it, to settle a claim at ACAS early conciliation or, heaven forbid, a tribunal, then you've got that money at one side anyway. Okay. So I've just got a question. Yes, so if you've got staff on probation, you can extend the probation as long as you extend the probation before the end of the probation. You can't have probation ending, and probation automatically ends unless you say it's being extended. Because we've had, particularly in the private sector, quite a few clients come and say, oh, well, it ended a month ago, but I didn't send the letter, so therefore it's not ended. Yet, no, it has ended. It's just you haven't sent a letter. So you can't extend it once probation is ended. That's the thing. But you can extend it at the moment, any time up to 2 years. I would say if they're not good in the first 6 months, usually we would say part company, because if they can't, show you how good they are, put the effort in at the beginning, are they going to get any better? Possibly not. But I wouldn't extend it more than just 3 months. And if they're still not good, then just part company, because otherwise you're wasting a lot of time on somebody who's never going to work out. Okay. And as always, make sure you get contracts of employment signed, ideally before they start working for you. At the very latest, the first second they walk through the door, they come in with a signed contract. If they do not have a signed contract, do not let them start work for you. They can sit down in the boardroom and read it. They can go home and not get paid for it, but they are not starting work until they sign the contract, because if they won't sign the contract, then they're not going to sign it any time soon. And what we found is really effective is sending it to them as an electronic signature, so Adobe DocuSign, something like that, because then people can look at it on their phones, which is more convenient for most of them. And okay, so this is obviously the employer side of it. They kind of just skim it and go, yeah, signed, done. Whereas if you give them a signed contract, or even as an email, they go, oh, I should sit down and look through this when I've got time. And they never have time, because we all know we never have time, and therefore it never gets done. Whereas if you do DocuSign, you're more likely to get it signed and you get it back electronically, which is fantastic, because we like having electronic stuff that is signed. And it's just a whole quicker process. And Adobe DocuSign will send daily reminders to people saying you have not signed this. And that then, obviously, you would send out a contract before they start. That's best practice. But certainly, again, if they haven't signed it by the first minute they're walking through your door, you say, you sign the thing I've sent to you electronically. And if they refuse, then they go home until they decide to sign. Nobody should be starting work without a signed contract. Okay. Yes, so if you've got staff already working for you who don't have signed contracts, you should be sending them out now. The one thing on the employer's side regarding contracts is if you've sent them a contract, and the key thing is that you have sort of proof that you've sent it, either an email receipt, because you can have delivery receipt, or you've given it to them physically and you have a note that they have been given it on this date at this time, okay? Then within 2 months of that, or 2 salary payments, if they have not objected in writing, they are deemed to have accepted it. So it's not tragic if they haven't signed it. But if you, what we usually find is if you're doing pay increases at all or changing roles, that you then give them a new contract and then you make sure they do sign it. But if they don't sign it and they kept working for you, then they're deemed to have accepted it as well. But it really helps if you can prove when you gave it out to them. That's the thing. An email is usually easier to do that with than physically giving it to them. Okay. Yeah, so it's the first 2 months that it has to be 2 salary payments, and then they're deemed to have accepted it, not just the first 4 weeks. Okay. Good. Well, if there aren't any other questions. Oh, Melanie, yeah.
Sorry, just quickly, I've just come back from a camp meeting, and somebody mentioned that they don't pay statutory sick pay.
From what meeting?
Our Kent secretary's meeting.
Oh, they don't pay sick pay?
Yeah, and they have to, don't they? Unless they haven't earned enough, unless they've been. Okay,
so the thing is that sometimes people are a little bit flexible on their definition of sick pay. Okay, so legally you have to pay statutory sick pay if the employee qualifies under the SSP rules.
Yeah.
Okay. That's you have no way around. Although I do often see with, when I'm doing my tribunal audits, they say, 0 hours don't get SSP. Of course they do if they qualify. Okay, you can't stop that. What they don't often pay is the enhanced sick pay.
Yeah.
So, and you don't have to pay that. That's fine.
No.
But you do have to pay SSP. The thing with SSP is that you have to have average earnings in 8 weeks. So although it's a day one right, you don't get the money until you've got 8 weeks of contribution. Yeah. So it's so that's then that might be part of it. I'm going to say if they, it would be interesting to know who that is, because it better not be one of our clients. I'm just saying.
When I listened, I was thinking, you can't do that. You can't not pay. And then they then said something like, yeah, they have to do. We do it on an annual basis. So it's like they make up their own thing, on an annual basis, and we look at how much sick that they've had and whether or not we pay them statutory sick pay. And I was
okay, so they're definitely doing it wrong, because that is not what you do at all. Okay, so maybe you'd like to send me a little message about who that is, and I can ring them up and say, so talk me through your sick pay, because you're doing it wrong and it's illegal and you need to stop doing that. Yeah, okay. Or say, I think you need to talk to Carolyne about your sick pay, because I have a feeling. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Michelle, you've got another question. Do you want to unmute yourself or put it in the chat? I don't mind.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Hi, Caroline. So a question that's come up a lot here at the moment, and again, I know my thoughts, but sometimes I think I'm going crazy. We have 3 or 4 sites here.
Yeah.
If staff are having to travel in between the various sites, should they be, so for example, I don't have a set base. I'm employed by Brooke.
Yeah.
But I don't have a set base. But I travel between all 4 sites, including Newark.
Yeah.
Should I be claiming the fuel?
Yes.
Well, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and the travel time. Yeah, so all staff should have a location in their contract. Okay. It can't really be no location. There should be some location, even if it's just home. But if you're traveling between, work sites, the travel time is paid, which is on salary, it probably is. But the fuel is definitely paid. The mileage at maximum 45p a mile.
And is the minimum 40?
No. The minimum is whatever the employer wants to pay. It's just up to 45p a mile is free of tax. If you pay more than that, it becomes a taxable benefit.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So even if we're going just a mile between each.
Yes. Yeah. Because there's still wear and tear on the car and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. No, that's what I thought before I broached the subject.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I'm going to say it's always interesting when you do mention that to people, how they're like, well, I can't possibly afford to pay that. Well, then don't make people travel it then,
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not supposed to be subsidising our own jobs. Sorry.
No, but it's right, because I've also got a situation where I've had three receptionists have to cover a night porter that went sick.
Right.
And we're basically told, well, it's a treat because you can stay in one of the rooms.
No.
I know. And we've also got another situation where a chef has been given accommodation as part of his but it's not the contract, it's just you can stay in the staff flat. But there's no agreement, and now he's bringing his girlfriend back every night.
Yes, and because there's no agreement, it's difficult to stop, because did you say he could bring or not bring guests? And usually there's a thing saying you can only have guests if it's approved in advance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm just literally tearing my hair out at the moment.
Okay, so I'll be expecting a phone call from you soon, Michelle, all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Caroline.
All right, everybody, enjoy the weather, and I will speak to you next week. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. If you want a free tribunal audit of your employment contract and handbook, click the link in the description below.